This conference will now be recorded.
Welcome back to Live Talk with Dr. B. Hill. We are having Dr. Doug Smith join us as well today to continued information. So, Dr. B, I'm going to let these viewers know that if they want to talk with us, there's a chat button up in the right-hand corner that they can ask questions, and you will be more than glad to answer them. So, take it away.
Thank you so much. And I see, Dr. Smith, you've been traveling.
We just got back from a horse show and I didn't even think about getting all the hanging clothes out. And we don't have good Wi-Fi or signal. We live so far out in the country. So I drove into town to get on the Wi-Fi and turn on my camera and noticed, oh wow, all the laundry hanging behind.
Well, at
But
least
that,
we know you have laundry. What can I tell
yeah,
you?
yeah, yeah, yeah. So good afternoon, B. How are you today?
I am absolutely wonderful. I'm very, very excited today, knowing that we are texting some of the physicians to join us.
Faxing.
And that makes me, faxing some of the physicians to join us and to learn more about the DNA test and
We
about the
just got the
preliminary study.
system operational. By the way, Travis is having an issue logging on. Just so you know, there's
Yes.
probably a Wi-Fi connection issue on his side. We just got the faxing operational. Really, just about 20 minutes ago. This is a multi-week, multi-day effort. This is something that we're very excited about. Some of us, myself included, believe that this is going to be a significant step in bringing about finally an end to this opioid crisis. We have gone to Washington. We have gone to the state capitals. We have gone to the attorney generals. We have gone to the media. We have done pretty much everything that we could think to do to engage with the powers that be. And the reality is, the powers that be may be well-meaning, but they don't seem to be motivated and rapidly bringing about an end to the opioid crisis. There's just kind of an acceptance of the status quo that we run into, and then of course people look at us like we're a bunch of wing nuts because we're saying, oh, the opioids are not causing opioid addiction; they're causing DNA damage, and they look at us like, well, everybody knows the opioids are addictive. Everybody knows that. Yeah, just like everybody used to know the world was flat. So we repeatedly run into dead end after dead end after dead end. The only group that is receptive to our message are the patients who are trapped. The people who know in the back of their mind, I never really believed I was a drug addict. I'm, you know,
You know, though, Dr. Smith, I've talked to a lot of physicians, and they say there's more to it than just a brain thing. And they don't think it's a brain thing either, but they've thought about that for a long time. And they see their patients on a regular basis, and they don't feel like that's the answer to it, that it's a brain disease or a brain problem.
well, B, we're going to get some information this week because we're faxing several thousand physicians who are have all registered to participate in as buprenorphine providers. So these are the physicians who have a dog in the fight, a stake in the game, and well, I mean, frankly, we'll see what happens. They may call us up angry. They may demand that we take their number off of our fax list, or they may be receptive to say, "Hey, this is interesting. Can you tell us a little bit more science?" Although what we're asking them to do is believe us, not believe us, take your time to believe us. But in the interim, go ahead and give the information to your patients and let the patients make a
Make
decision.
an informed decision. Uh-huh.
Let the patients make an informed decision as to whether or not they want to take the DNA test. The physician and the provider should not stand in the way of the patient making that decision. That's not proper.
No, I agree with you. But isn't it wise for them to give that paper to their patients? Because since there is a test that actually shows what the diagnosis is, the true diagnosis, isn't it wise to make sure that the patients get that paper?
What you're talking about there is the provider's responsibility, and what's going to happen with the providers is they're most providers take their responsibility very seriously, and they want to make sure they're not giving the patient something that's snake oil. They want to make sure that they're not giving their patients something that's a scam. And so there will be some reluctance in giving the handout to the patient because they want to check on the validity of the of what we're saying. Good afternoon, Travis. How are you? Can you hear us okay?
Your
Yeah,
mic
can you hear me? Sorry about that, guys. I was having a problem with Wi-Fi.
sounds like you're still having a little problem with it. No sound.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Y'all can't hear
Travis
me?
is coming and going. Travis is our lead plaintiff in our in our lawsuit, our class action lawsuit. And I want everybody to know that he is a very brave young man who has come forward and said, hey, my DNA has been messed up and I want someone to know about it. I want to stop other people from dying. And he is in the fight to stop the opioid crisis. Can't hear you,
And
Travis.
I'm in my kids' room, actually, my daughter's room. You can't hear me?
You were
We can
coming and
hear
going.
you. Just talk slowly and let's see what happens. By the way, Travis, I apologize for the laundry behind me. We just got back from a horse show, and I didn't realize until I got on the onto the screen that I didn't take the hanging clothes out of the back of the car. So my apologies for that.
Okay. What can y'all hear me or no?
We can hear
Yes,
you.
Okay, when I first logged on, just want to tell you, it said microphone muted, but I played with the microphone, so now it's working now, I guess.
yeah, we can hear you fine.
Okay. And I'm sorry for this. This is my kids' bunk bed, so
Oh, I wondered
I
what
just
that was. I
yeah, I
thought that
had to
was an
come in here
interesting
because
feeling.
the Wi-Fi router's in here, so I wanted to come in here and maybe it would be a little bit clearer. So sorry about that, guys.
That's okay. We were just talking about today were the first emails that went out to the physicians.
Faxes.
Faxes. I'm going to email myself
Faxes.
to death.
Yeah,
Faxes that went out to the physicians to join us. And we were talking about the paperwork that accompanied it that they can give to their patients and let their patients make a choice on what they want to do.
that's great. That sounds great.
So Travis, you took the test. You took the DNA test.
Yes, sir.
You had been told that you were an opioid addict,
Correct?
and in fact, when you resisted the diagnosis a little bit, they told you that you were not being uh, uh, open to treatment or something along those lines. That you weren't accepting the facts.
Yeah, they said the first step to recovery, to recovery is admitting that that you're the first step is admitting that you have a problem, like that you're an addict. And also one of the steps you have to admit that mentally something's wrong with you is it basically is what they told me. I mean, I went to 2 meetings and I didn't go back.
Chrissy, if you can, let's bring up the yeah, right there. All right, so Travis, they told you you were a drug addict. You ended up being a participant in our clinical trial, and as one of the participants in that clinical trial, you took the DNA test, the very same DNA test that we are offering to everybody else. Uh, and this DNA test is a check for a type of damage to the DNA called methylation. And Travis, if I'm not mistaken, what is your number? 1071?
No, if I'm not mistaken, it's 7,031.
7031. Your number 7031.
Yes.
And
Yes.
what we've done here is we've tried to color code this a little bit to make it easier for people. The top five participants in the clinical trial are opioid naive. And as you can see, their numbers are lower. Their methylation numbers are lower. There is some methylation. Some methylation is always normal. But the point is the 5 rows on top differ markedly from all the rows beneath them. And what we've done here is we've measured the level of methylation actually in the OPRM1 gene. That is the gene that encodes or manufactures the main opioid receptor, the mu opioid receptor. And Travis, as you can see right there, you've got significant methylation on your DNA. And Chrissy, if we could move to the next slide, please. And then, Travis, what we're saying is that what our people are suffering from is not opioid addiction, but is a genetic damage from the opioid, which, how can you argue with it? We're able to measure it. So, Travis, when you see that, do you believe? First off, do you believe you're an opioid addict? And secondly, do you believe they were wrong when they told you that you were an opioid addict?
No, I don't believe that I do not believe that I'm an opioid addict. And second, yes, I do believe that they were wrong when they told me that. After getting the Smith test done and seeing my catecholamines and looking at the results and then doing some research myself, like I told you before, to me it's all common sense. I mean, not only common sense, but it's science too. And with science, it doesn't lie, and you can't argue with science. So that's my whole thing behind that.
What we're looking at here on the screen, Travis, these are the catecholamine levels of the people who were the participants, the volunteers in our clinical trial. And Travis, you were a brave volunteer, and you went off all medication for 3 days and allowed yourself to go into opioid withdrawal. And then on the third day, you came in and had your blood drawn, and if I'm not mistaken, you were participant number 700 right there on the list. And as the viewer can see, Travis, your blood work showed both elevated epinephrine and elevated dopamine. There are 3 adrenalins, 3 catecholamines, what the layperson would call adrenalins. There are 3 adrenalins: norepinephrine, epinephrine, and dopamine. And Travis, you were elevated on 2. Travis, what did it feel like to experience 3 days of having your brain just saturated with catecholamines, adrenalines, and your body basically out of control of basic organ functions?
It felt like I was gonna die. I mean, each day just kept getting worse. On the third day, I told my wife, I said, I just want to run out in front of traffic. I told her that I want it to stop. I said, I want to die. I said, if this doesn't stop soon, I'm just going to run out in front of a car. Like, I want to get ran over. I don't want this. Like, I literally told her that. I was like, I feel like I just want to die. Like, I don't want to go through this anymore. I can't. I just can't go through this anymore. That's basically what I told her. And then when I pulled up in my doctor's office, when I pulled up in the parking lot and I knew I was going to get some medication, I was just so relieved. Like I couldn't wait, but I couldn't even walk. She had to help me walk inside. I couldn't even get out of the car. I couldn't do anything. I mean, you can't move. You're like, I don't know how to explain it to you. You're dead. Like you feel dead. That's literally how I felt, was dead.
Travis, we believe that the damage to the DNA, we believe that the methylation to the OPRM1 gene, which is not that difficult to measure, we figured it out, and we're making it available to the public as a test so people can prove whether or not they're an opioid addict. But we believe that what that DNA damage is doing is producing abnormal opioid receptors, which are unable to perform their normal functions. And we believe that what you experienced, Travis, was a loss of control not so much of the organs, but the nerves that control the organs. And if you lose control of the nerves that control the organs, you lose control of the organs. You lose control of your sweat glands, that's uncomfortable. You lose control of your bowels, that's distressing. You lose control of your adrenal gland, and that thing will kill you. But it seems that somewhere built into this, what part of what people are losing control of is their fight or flight response. Okay, when you know, when we were hunter gatherers, 25,000 years ago, and the bear jumped out from behind the tree, it was fight or flight. And we have a system that enables us to be better fighters or better flighters, either run faster or fight harder. That system is usually only on for a very short period of time. But Travis, you
Right.
experienced 3 days of what may turn out to be a hyperactivated fight or flight situation. What does that feel like?
Um, it kind of feels like a panic attack that never stops. I mean, you're sick the entire time, but at the same time, you feel like you're having a panic. It's really, really hard to explain whenever that happens. You That's something that somebody only going through it would know what I'm talking about, but it literally, okay, so you're sick, and on top of being sick, you feel like you're having a panic attack that never will stop. So if you can only imagine that, imagine the flu times 100, and then imagine the worst panic attack you've ever had that never ends, and then put those two things together, and yeah, you're mentally and physically,
Which
you're not in a
worse?
good place.
Which is worse, the
What
mental or
is that?
which is worse, the mental or the physical?
The physical for me. The physical sickness is the worst. It's by a long shot. It's the worst. The way you feel, oh my God, that's what made me. That's what makes you not want to go through it. The mental is one thing, but the physical sickness is what makes you want to. You're willing to do anything not to become sick. That's what makes that. That's what makes that embedded in your mind. Because once you go through that physical sickness the first time, you won't allow yourself to go through it again. You're just not going to allow it to happen. Um, Mentally, yeah, there's something there, but it's not like the physical sickness. It's just not. There's no comparison because I mean,
It is very
a
well known.
panic attack, you can just take a couple deep breaths and then you can quit freaking out and you'll be all right. But that sickness that's physically there, it's you can't just take a couple deep breaths and it's going to go away. You actually have to have opioids for it to go away.
Travis, it's very well known that the catecholamines, the adrenaline, particularly epinephrine, is involved in the formation of PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder. These are people who had elevated levels of epinephrine, possibly for longer periods of time. We know that from studies drawing urine samples of individuals involved in major trauma. And those with the higher epinephrine levels would end up most likely to have the PTSD. So, Travis, you had a sky high epinephrine level. Your epinephrine level is barely compatible with life. Is it possible? Do you think it's possible that this elevated epinephrine level that this is on day 3 for you, day 3, so you had experienced elevated epinephrine levels, possibly not just for minutes, hours, possibly for days. Is it possible that these elevated epinephrine levels is instilling within the person, yourself included, all the people affected by the opioids, instilling in them a triggering an existing behavior that I will never go through that withdrawal again. I do not care what I have to do. That was so horrible, so terrible. My body, my brain is now going to make sure that I'm going to do whatever I have to do to not experience that again. That's known as the avoidance reflex. It's part of being human. It's probably part of being a mammal. It's the avoidance reflex. It's the reason children only stick the fork in the electrical outlet one time. the epinephrine sears the memory in their brain and they don't do it a second time. So, Travis, once you had experienced that, did your behavior after experiencing that horror, would that be consistent with avoiding the horror ever occurring again?
For me personally, yeah. Like once I got sick the first time, I pretty much made a pact with myself that I would never get sick again. Like I was like, I don't care what it takes. I am never going through this again because I can't, because it's the worst thing that I've ever had in my life happen to me. Like, I mean, it literally was at the time, going through that sickness, that was the most scariest thing that I never wanted to go through again. Like, I mean, I'm serious. And then, like I said, unless you've experienced it and know what sickness I'm talking about, you'll understand why me and everybody else who was on opioids are scared to become sick. Because, like I said, unless you've been through it, you don't know what we're talking about. And unless you've experienced it, you don't understand what we mean. Like it's that bad. The sickness is that bad. You don't want to go through it. You're willing to do whatever it takes not to, and you are scared. You are petrified, to say the least, of going through that sickness. So you're willing to do whatever it takes not to go through it. Because
That's
you're just not normal. Like when you're sick, you're just not normal, and you want to stay normal. You want to function. You want to stay normal. So I mean, that's pretty much all I can say about it, because it's, unless you've been through it, it's just hard for me to explain. It's the worst sickness you've ever been through in your entire life. I mean, you could say you had the flu and times that by at least 50 or maybe 100, and then you'll have the sickness that I'm talking about coming off of opioids. It's bad.
And we believe that the saturation of the catecholamines, the saturation of the adrenaline, the saturation of the brain, particularly of the epinephrine, sears into the brain behavior to ensure that that never happens again. And this is where you get people doing things they would never otherwise do, and it's almost as if it's out of their control because they're under the control of the effects of the sickness, of the catecholamines, of the adrenalines. Christy, let's jump ahead to the next slide. We're going to run out of time here. But Travis, as we leave this slide, let me add, you were one of the first people in the history of the world to ever have your blood drawn for catecholamines, adrenaline, epinephrine, while you were in opioid withdrawal. Doesn't that fact kind of shock you that you're one of the first people in the history of the world to have that test done?
I mean, yeah, it shocks me, but it's more of an honor than anything else, Doug. Like, I'm glad I could have, I don't know if sacrifice is the right word, but I'm glad I could, sacrifice those 3 days, for a bigger cause, because, I was scared to do it. I understood that I was going to have to be without my medication for 3 days, and that petrified me. I was like, God, I'm going to be sick for 3 days. I was like, I don't want to do this. But in the back of my mind, I felt like it was for, like, the greater good, so to speak. I thought that, this was for something bigger than myself, and that, maybe, everybody who participated, whoever did this with me, we could make a change, that, we could figure out what was really going on with everybody. And, maybe we could stop all this. Maybe we could get more people off of opioids and onto, buprenorphine. Maybe we could save some lives. I mean, and that's what I was thinking at that time, to be honest with you. I wanted answers, but at the same time, I wanted to help maybe save some lives as well. So that's where I was thinking whenever I went through that process, with doing this.
Travis, the next slide that you can see there, that's the big brain disease model of addiction that put forth by Dr. Volkow and her associates. This is from the New England Journal of Medicine 2016 uh, publication. And Travis, we just looked at your DNA, and your DNA showed methylation in the OPR region, OPRM1 region of the DNA. We just looked at your catecholamines, and we saw that your epinephrine dopamine were sky high, so sky high they were incompatible with life. Now we're looking at the brain disease model of addiction, and what we're looking at here is called the stages of addiction. And one of the stages of addiction they have listed here on this chart is withdrawal. Now, Travis, you just described to us what withdrawal felt like. When you look on this stages of addiction here and you find the part that talks about withdrawal, Travis, according to the renowned Dr. Nora Volkow, director of NIDA, National Institute of Drug Abuse, her brain disease model of addiction doesn't say anything about elevated catecholamines. There is nothing in the brain disease model of addiction that would have predicted elevated catecholamines. Now, our hypothesis, the Smith hypothesis, we predicted the elevated catecholamines and we found them when we checked. But Travis, what does the brain disease model of addiction tell you about withdrawal? Do you see it there on the screen in front of you?
Yeah, feeling reduced energy, feeling reduced excitement, and the other one to the right says feeling depression, I think maybe. I couldn't see. Oh yeah, feeling depressed, anxious, and restless.
Travis, you experience withdrawal. Do those terms describe what you experienced?
No, not really, to be honest with you. I mean, there's a couple words that might go into what I was going through, but no. Like feeling reduced energy. Yeah, I mean, I couldn't get out of bed. But feeling reduced excitement, like that, to me, that's kind of, I want to actually laugh every time I read that one where it says feeling reduced excitement. Like it makes me laugh when I read it because I'm like, re- reduced excitement. I'm like, and I'm sorry for laughing, but that to me is, that one is almost like a joke. It's pretty comical because
Travis, hang on a second.
excitement wasn't even in my vocabulary whenever I
Travis,
was sick. I mean, it's
Travis, hang on a second. You have earned the right to laugh at her words because you were a brave volunteer. You participated in a clinical trial. You went 3 days without your medicine, and you had your blood drawn, and you proved that elevated catecholamines, elevated adrenaline levels, were a component of the opioid withdrawal in humans. You were one of the first people to prove that fact. And for you to sit there with proven adrenaline toxicity and to read what she says about reduced excitement, yeah, you've earned the right to laugh at her pseudoscience. Absolutely you have, Travis. Absolutely you
I
have.
appreciate that. I appreciate that, Dr. Smith.
You have earned the right to laugh at her ridiculous statement because you went through the horror of what's actually known as autonomic dysfunction, loss of control of the internal organs, one of which is the adrenal gland. And Travis, you got to admit, sometimes you struggle to find the right words to describe what you felt. And Travis, I would put forth the reason that you struggle to find the right words is because this has never happened in the history of mankind before. Therefore, since it's never happened, the words don't exist. We don't have the words.
That's a fair point. That's a good fact.
Yeah,
Yeah, but just going back to this, yeah, what she said here is just excitement was never in the vocabulary. You're not even thinking about excitement. Um, I don't even think I had any excitement whenever I was even on opioids because there is no excitement on opioids. I mean, just period. There's none. You have a one-track mind, and that's not to get sick. And I've said it before, and I'll say it again. That's literally all you think about is not getting sick. It's about nothing else. It's not like, hey, let's go get high, let's go party. Like that's not what you're thinking. They're completely wrong.
Dr. B is back.
like a bad penny. Well, I hate to say this, but our show is at the end today, but we can pick this up again tomorrow if it's okay with the rest of everybody else. How's that sound?
Perfect.
Sounds good.
All right. There's
B, I'm trying
Chrissy.
to get rid of the laundry, and I don't know if anybody noticed, but there is a huge horsefly in this vehicle with me, and I got bit several times throughout the meeting.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
That'll teach you to come with laundry,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah.
All right, Chrissy, it's all yours.
Well, thank you so much for joining us today with Live Talk with Dr. B. Hill. And certainly you are welcome to join us every Monday through Thursday, 12:30 to 1. So y'all have a blessed day.